to a show.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats podcast. And it's me, it's Dante, and we're back for another episode fresh off my birthday weekend. So actually, no, well, that'll be last week by the time this comes out. But either way it goes, we celebrating 48 years, y'all. So for this episode, I would like to welcome a guest to the podcast that I record with a teammate of mine, Eli Adams, and he had suggested this young lady, and he goes, she would be perfect for Off the Mats, and she likes scary movies, so maybe for a horror podcast too. And I was like, well, which one should I do? And he goes, maybe start with Off the Mats. And like, I'm asking him for advice for my own pod, but whatever, man, I got this. But anyhow, our guest today that I'm going to be bringing onto the podcast is Miss Lauren Barone. Hello, Lauren. What's up, and how you feeling today?
Hey, Dante. First of all, I'd like to wish you a belated happy birthday. And thanks so much for having me on the show today. I've been super excited about it, looking forward to it for a while. We've been getting a lot of winter weather in this area. It's actually supposed to come a blizzard outside this afternoon and into the night. So we ran by the grocery store, stocked up on a few things, and we are good to go.
Yeah, you're in the Philadelphia area?
Yeah, I'm like in the greater Philadelphia area, probably around an hour and a half from Philly.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm down near Baltimore, about 20 minutes or so away, and we saw that weather advisory a couple days ago. It kept changing. It was like, oh, you guys might see about an inch. Maybe 3. Then we're looking at 6, and now my wife's like, yeah, they're talking about like we're like on the border of like 10 to 15 inches. I was like, let's not do that. Like, no more. I like snow is lovely to look at, like screensavers, awesome. But I don't want to be in it.
Yeah, it's been a crazy winter. Like the amount of accumulation of snow that we've had. We ran a qualifying tournament for my team last month, and the blizzard fell on us as we were trying to do the tournament. So that was super interesting to navigate.
Yeah, I could only imagine the chaos that comes with that. And you mentioned your team there, and that's actually one of the first things I want to kind of step into and ask you about is PGF? Actually, it's right there behind you.
Yes, absolutely. Phenoms. We have a lovely logo, the Philadelphia Phenoms. They are a brand new franchise team within the Professional Grappling Federation. I purchased my team August of last year, and I would love to give you the background story if you'd like to know it.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Share with the class.
All right. My husband and I, we had been practicing jiu-jitsu for around 3 years now. So we had been a fan of jiu-jitsu, practicing as casual hobbyists, and we also like to watch it on TV, like to stream it, like to watch the different matches and the high-end athletes just putting in that energy, putting in that work. So one night my husband goes to me, he's like, have you heard of the PGF? And I say, I don't know, maybe I have, I'm not sure. He says, well, you should watch this. This is interesting. And I get to watching it, and I noticed something right off with the matches. I noticed the rule set is different. They have an implementation of the shot clock. So you're incentivized for bringing that energy, seeking those submissions, and just giving it your very best. You don't want to stall with the PGF rule set. And I thought that was very valuable as part of the audience. And, I quickly became a fan, and we watched it regularly throughout that season. And I started wondering, I wonder if there's a way that I could become part of this. And I ended up talking to Brandon McCatherine, who's the commissioner of the PGF. And the next thing you know, I'm on a plane to Las Vegas, and I end up at a live match night at the PGF, sitting on one of those white VIP couches. And it was like, unlike any experience I had ever done before. I've been to many sporting events, but there was magic behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. It's like it came together to make an amazing production, a high quality sport event, and just like the premium branding. It was a really, really genuinely wonderful experience. And I knew then and there I wanted to purchase my own PGF franchise team. So I set out to do that. And it was done August of 2025. So then
Wow.
came the fun part. I was like, I get to name my team, I get to figure out the branding. So I'm a big fan of all things sci-fi, specifically classic sci-fi, and well, I'm a fan of horror too, but I love sci-fi. So I wanted to pay respect to the great city of Philadelphia. And I was like, I want to honor that city and have a name that flows well with it. So I tapped into that love of classic sci-fi and came up with Phenomenon. I was like, Philadelphia Phenomenon. And then people were like, oh, that's a bit too long. Okay, we need to shorten that. So then it morphed into Philly Phenoms. And I was like, a phenom, that's someone doing something exceptional, an exceptional athlete, a really good person that's achieving something at a high level. So Philly Phenoms just flowed so well together. And we got the alien with a flying saucer in the background. So we're paying homage to Philly and the Area 215. You can see this great big logo behind me. So that's what we settled on. And I hope that that authenticity translates to people out there, that this branding is genuine and from the heart.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it. It just hearing you speak of it, I could hear the passion. And you said you've been training for 3 years, so like even 3 years in, you took an interest, you found something that you like, and then transform that passion into something bigger. So that's really cool. I like it. So with the format of the PGF, like how does a match work? How does a season work? How, like, can you give me a breakdown of that of some sort?
Absolutely. We actually have season 9 of the PGF coming up right around the corner. It starts on March 4th, and it's
Oh,
going to be
nice.
every Wednesday night for 6 weeks through April 8th. And it can be live streamed on the PGF's YouTube. The way that's going to be set up is there are currently 4 franchise teams. There are, I'm just going to name them in order, the Las Vegas Kings, there's the Alabama Twisters, there's my franchise, the Philly Phenoms, first female owned franchise. And then there's been a new addition, the Colorado Wolverines. So
Mhm.
we each have 5 athletes on our team. And the bracket is a 175-pound male bracket for this season. And they already have the match order and who versus who up on the website on the PGF. So everybody, if they want a sneak preview of who's going to face who and when, check out the PGF website. So basically, the way the rule set works is you definitely want to get a sub. You don't get rewarded for not getting a sub. If the match ends and there is no submission, then it's just a draw. It's not really beneficial. So you can get 6 points for a choke. That's called a kill. That's ideally what you want to do. And then you can get 3 points for a break, a joint lock, whether it's the arm or the leg or the heel. That's still great too. And those points can stack up after time. And then if you get a submission and can secure it in under 1 minute, you're going to get an extra point for that as well. And then one of the great things is that anything could happen in the PGF. There are PGF owners out there that throw money bags when they see something they like. You might be getting a money bag for it.
Nice. It's like a little win bonus, if you will.
Yeah.
That's good. Good to hear. I'm like I've heard of the PGF. Like I've seen it pop up through my social media, but so much stuff just comes through our feeds these days. There's so much content, so it's like you see something like, okay, I'm familiar with it. You get an ideal of a logo, and it's like, okay, I'm aware, and you keep going. So when I was looking through, and I see, okay, she owns a PGF franchise. All right, that's cool. And I'm like, okay, that looks familiar. All right, I recognize the PGF logo. And then as you just explained it to me, I was like, huh, guess I just recognize it. I've never really took a deep dive into it. So it definitely sounds exciting. So when the new season does start up, you said March 4th.
Yeah. In Las Vegas, Nevada.
I'll definitely be tuning in and making sure to do some reposts of my own of it, because it sounds exciting. And jiu-jitsu, it's that sport right now. It's growing in a way where we have so much going on and so many different um different competitions, different tournaments, leagues now. So it's always exciting to see things from a different perspective and how someone else can interpret it and bring it to an entertainment base for viewers. Because my coach and I were just talking about it last week. He was like, I can't stand watching jiu-jitsu. Like, he's been training for 30 plus years. He's like, I can't stand watching it. It's like, okay, well, I mean, there are some exciting matches out there. It's just a matter of, everything's so different. So finding, your lane of interest. And I think submission jiu-jitsu specifically, as a big point of excitement, because if you're just going for points or just stalling, yeah, two folks just laying there on the ground. But if you're going for those submissions, you're going for the kill. Like, there's always some action. So I like hearing that. That's good. So, like, kind of going back a little bit here on you in terms of jiu-jitsu, though. You said you started 3 years ago. How did jiu-jitsu first enter into your life for you? Like, were you aware of it? Were you interested in it before, or did you just, hop in and was like, let's go?
Absolutely. As a child, my mom put me in taekwondo classes. So I did that for a little while, and I was just enamored with martial arts. I was a Ninja Turtles fan. I loved watching that. I loved asking for the toys for Christmas. So that's kind of how my foundation was laid for the appreciation of martial arts. And of course, growing up, getting busy, things changing, I still carried it in the back of my mind that I wanted to get back into martial arts in some capacity. And then I just decided one day I would love to lose some weight. I would love to improve my cardio, and also like gain some self defense skills. So I ended up signing up for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and my husband signed up with me. So it's nice to have an accountability partner, someone that makes sure you're going to class, make sure you're rolling. Um, and what's funny is he and I have very different styles of jujitsu. I'm more of a pressure passer type who's gotten into leg locks lately, as a blue belt. And then he is very, very technical with everything he does. He's like human chessboard type. Um, but so nice to have that accountability partner training with me, and just experiencing this journey.
Good. It's interesting. Just a married couple, you're both trained together. You both have two different styles. I guess it makes sense but at the same time, it's like, if you train together, it's like, let's mimic each other, or hey, show me what you're working on. But it's cool to have different, styles together, because, you can play off of each other, learn off of each other, and then implement your own game and then take from the other one's game if you want to. So that's cool. And for your team, your franchise in the PGF, uh, right now, I guess you said there are 9 seasons of it, or you're going to be starting a ninth season this year, this March.
Yeah.
As far as growth goes with, the individual teams, you said there are 5 members on each team, and this year the bracket was 175 pounds.
Yes.
Uh, so does that change each year for the weight class, or like how does that work out?
Absolutely. Season 8 of the PGF, before I kind of got in, they were doing the 155 pounds. Um, so it definitely does change around, and you never know like what it's going to be next season. But I think that's part of the appeal. Like, oh, will they do the bigger guys, or will they do the smaller guys? And I think also, like, as a professional league, with professional athletes, we're moving more towards having franchise players. I'm certainly on the lookout as a team owner for people that are on my team who just set a great example on and off the mats to become franchise players and be invited back in the future. I think that would be great if I was able to do that.
That sounds cool. Cool. And is it just males only, or is there females on the team as well? Like how does that work in terms of the different matchups and things?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the teams go, those are currently all male, but I know back in season 2 of the PGF, if I reach back in my memory of the footage that I've seen and kind of what I know, they were trying to do an all female bracket. Um, but I believe with everything being in its infancy back then, there were not enough females that signed up. So I think that in the future, that opportunity will certainly come back around for another female bracket. I'm very confident in that. In the meantime, in previous seasons, there have been female super fights, female title matches. I can think of one specifically from season 9, which was a great match with Maka Vickers taking the women's title. So I very much look forward to more women's matches, possibly in season 9. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. So that's good. I mean, women's grappling in general is quickly growing. There's so many female wrestling teams popping up, high schools, college, all around, and then jiu-jitsu, like women on the jiu-jitsu scene, it's a big deal. So I could see, in the future, that expanding out, or having the female season. But that sounds exciting. It sounds really fun. So good. And for yourself, in your regular training, do you compete?
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
I competed probably close to a dozen times last year. I had many losses, but I had some really notable wins too. My favorite wins were probably I took gold early on last year. I think it was in January of last year. I believe beginner Naga. And then April of last year, I took gold in a 4-person bracket, absolute bracket at Control Combat. And then around, I want to say it was September of last year, I took silver in at Pans IBJJF, and then at some point, I took gold in finishers absolute purple, brown, black. So I was kind of all over the place. I had uh, I had lots of losses last year, but those notable wins, it was like, okay, all this hard work is paying off a little bit. I get to enjoy some of these wins. I'm always going to be a work in progress. I'm having so much fun with it though, and it's just amazing that something that started off as my hobby has turned into my full-time career, and I'll be forever grateful for that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's that's the goal there is, something that you genuinely enjoy, you genuinely love turns into your career, your job. And what's that saying? They say, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. So there you have it. Um, and if the opportunity popped up within the PGF seasons here in the league, you say, hey, we're doing, our female run teams. What are we doing here? Are you hopping in?
I would love to in my heart. However, I consider myself to be somewhere in the realm of casual competitor, like a serious casual competitor. Even though, I'll probably train like 4 to 5 days a week on a good week. I also do strength and conditioning once or twice a week, but I want to reserve that spot for a lady who is at that professional level. Um, that may not be me, but I want to see those professional ladies get out there, and I'll be cheering for them on the sidelines.
Awesome. That's good. Good. Hey, I mean, you never know. Down the line, you might start pushing and pushing, pushing. I think I'm more than a casual competitor. I think I'm stepping into that. But it is, still, good of you in that ideal saying, hey, I don't want to take an opportunity from somebody else. So, that's admirable as well. So good. And also, you said you had a lot of losses. You know what they say in jiu-jitsu, you're not losing, you're learning. You did a lot of learning. So
Lots of learning, a whole lot of learning, up and down the mats, a lot of learning.
I did a lot of learning yesterday. And it's like, oh, that's what that means. I guess I don't put my hand there. Huh. Who would have thunk? Oh, good. That's really good. And for the PGF, this is all no-gi, correct?
It is all no-gi. However, there are guests at the PGF that help set the stage for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in America, like Carlos Machado and many others, and Hoist Gracie, and seeing those legends there. I was actually partially inspired to get into jujitsu by watching Hoist Gracie on TV. Like I was watching his old matches, and I was just like taken aback by the way he handled himself with his technicality and movement. So I have respect for those guys so much, and it's kind of wonderful how the stage, is for the modern professional athletes that are grappling, but you have those legends there watching them. So it's like it's for everybody, and jujitsu truly is for everybody. Like even if you don't do jujitsu, anybody can be a fan. Anybody can be welcome to be a fan.
Oh yeah. I, I think there's so many people who away from jiu-jitsu, if you don't know, you look at it, it's like what is this weird thing going on? But once you start seeing, I mean, go back to UFC 1. That's my buddy, I believe he was doing taekwondo at the time, and his parents rented the VHS for us, and which was wild. It's like, here, like, watch this cage fighting in the basement, it'll be okay. And but we fell in love with it because we were fascinated by this little dude in pajamas choking people. and I'm pretty sure he would either maybe he heard about this, at his academy where he was training. He was aware of it because he was talking about Hoist Gracie and pointing out like these submissions are really good. So there is an intrigue aspect to it. When you see someone that, what was it, Mighty Mouse a couple years back was an absolute division, and Mighty Mouse is a little fella, and he was going up against like a 260-pound behemoth and choked the dude. So there's always this fascination with seeing what would be perceived as the underdog coming out on top. So I think jiu-jitsu really does offer that to a lot of folks on a spectator level. I also think too, just as a grappler and as a fan, we're always watching because we want to see, we want to be up on what's coming around the corner. We want to, see the hot submissions and the hard fights, the competition out there. So I think just as this sport grows and we get things like the PGF, it's like sky's the limit. So this is really awesome.
Thank you so much.
With you did mention you're the first female franchise owner there in the PGF, which is cool. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
So far in establishing your team and getting set up as you're preparing for your first season in here, what's been like the most difficult part of owning a franchise and getting things set up thus far?
Oh yeah. With this being a totally new path that I've taken it on as my career, I am probably doing 9 or 10 people's different jobs. I wear many hats and I'm doing everything from marketing, social media to contracts, and I'll be cutting the paychecks as well. If you can think of a hat where that fits into this job, I am probably wearing it. I do have some great staff on board with me. I have my general manager, Stephen Aiken. I have my husband, Joe, who is doing the CFO role currently. And I definitely have some great help. But yeah, definitely just the sheer amount of work. I know that's a really broad umbrella. Um, there is so much work. Like when you get up to when you go to bed, there is always a lot of work to be done. There's content to be generated. There's promotions that need to be addressed, making sure we order the right sizes on the uniforms, just the little things sometimes, making sure everybody signed this and that, making sure everybody is in their training, meeting their nutrition and fitness goals. Are they going to make weight on weigh-in day? Are they mentally ready? Are they feeling good about everything because they're leaving home for 6 weeks to be in Las Vegas? I mean, there's a few guys that are locals. Even though it's a ton of work, at the end of the day, my mission is to create opportunities for athletes, get these athletes paid, and that in itself is entirely fulfilling.
Awesome. Yeah, it like as you started going down the line of the different uh you know jobs and tasks that are there, like as you started mentioning, I was like, oh yeah, they like it sounds like you have your hands full. So but good on you for taking on that challenge and not shying away from it. So because that's a lot. Like just hearing it, I was like, huh. Hey, I don't want to be the Baltimore franchise owner. Never mind. That
Oh,
sounds
I
like a
think you
lot.
should. I think you should. We need a good East Coast rivalry. I'm telling you.
True. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk. We'll talk off air. We'll, we'll see if we can sort something out. Um, before you became the owner of this franchise, what was your trade prior?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a licensed practical nurse. I don't really do that any longer. So I worked for many years as an LPN. I also have experience, managerial experience, owning and operating Airbnbs. I did that for a few years and really enjoyed it. And I think that was part of where I got my background being an entrepreneur, taking some risks, but calculated risks and kind of know what I want, have that visualization ready. Um, Being a franchise owner, it's a lifetime commitment. So I definitely knew that this would be something that I would be devoting a lot of time and energy to, but it's the right fit for me, and I'm able to go to Vegas for 6 weeks. I'm able to pour my love and time and energy into this because I want to build something great with this franchise that will last long after me, and be something that the younger generations can aspire to, like someone's little brother or sister can say, hey, I saw them on TV. I want to be just like them one of these days.
Your athletes that you have on the team, are they mostly local, or are they from roundabouts, like different areas, or all relatively from the PA area?
So for the format of how we got our players on our team is we are allotted two reserve spots on each franchise team. So with my franchise team, I kind of consulted with the coach, Chris Olivo, who's a black belt under Robert Drysdale, kind of got his opinions. And I knew that we kind of wanted to recruit someone local. So we came across Andrew Cockle, who we had known his name. He's kind of beloved here locally, won lots and lots of regional, local tournaments, and actually competed in different parts of the U.S. as well, and won some prestigious matches. And he's just really respected in the local community. So we knew that he's such a hard worker. He lives in the greater Philly area, so he definitely checks that box. He doesn't give up easily. He's difficult to sub. So it was like he was perfect for the team. And since bringing him on as a historical first ever athlete, it's been the total right direction for our franchise team. There might be people that say, oh, if he's not a nationally recognized name, is he going to win? But the thing is like, never underestimate the underdogs because they might surprise you. And then with our second franchise player, we got someone who's local to Las Vegas. Derek Rayfield, training out of 10th Planet Las Vegas under Coach Andy and Coach Casey. Derek is a PGF veteran who did last season of the PGF and did extremely well. Um, he he faced Jet Thompson, and he held his own really well against him. And then so we have those two reserves, and then we had our draft, PGF draft a couple weeks ago. That's where we pick up the remaining three players for our franchise. And we drafted Kyle Chambers out of Tempe, Oceanside, training under Giovanni Martinez. Shout out to them. And we also picked up Noah McCulley, training out of Oregon, 10th Planet. And then we also picked up Sean Melanson. He owns his own gym in New Hampshire. And then the squad of five is complete. So then we get two additional bench players. We picked up Derek Adkins, who is a black belt under the legendary Carlos Machado, as well as Armin Bruni, who trains under Chris Olivo. Chris Olivo is our coach. extremely high jiu-jitsu IQ. This guy kind of has it all. He has PGF experience as an athlete, UFC, BJJ experience as an athlete. He owns his own gym. He coaches. I've trained there before, and I love the dynamic. He's a really good coach. Um, the players will also be using his gym and facilities throughout season 9 to train in primarily. So we're really grateful that he gave us that opportunity. And he also has a cold plunge and a sauna he's offering up to the players. So Coach Chris has been extraordinarily generous. And then Stephen Aiken, our general manager, 10th Planet Black Belt under Boogeyman out of San Diego. He's been wonderful. He helps navigate the ship in the right direction for sure. Um, and then the athletes will all be, well, the ones that are not local to Las Vegas will all be staying at an Airbnb, not too far from the gym that they're training at. So I think that's going to be awesome and interesting with them having that dynamic.
That sounds really exciting. Like it just sounds like a well organized, setup of great, athletes, great folks all around. So that is really exciting. Uh, the and just thinking about the ideal of how with practices and training and everything, you have a facility that you guys can work at. And because I was wondering now, I was like, well, how does that work out for everyone? How does coaching work out for everyone? Because when I think about a franchise, when I think about teams, I think as a football fan, I think about NFL franchise and NFL teams. And granted, that's a whole different skill and a whole lot of different things going on there. But I'm still wondering, like, okay, you have your athletes, but what about your coaching? As you mentioned, also, your general managers. So I was like, okay, so it does kind of fit in the same bill to some degree. And then also again, like you mentioned, coaching and then, your rest and recovery, if you will, like with your cold plunges and saunas and stuff. So this sounds really awesome. Just excited. I'm excited now just thinking about the season coming up because as you're talking, I was like, once we're done here, I was like, all right, I know what I'm going to do down here in the basement. Now I'm going to go ahead and hop on YouTube and look some stuff up and get ready for this upcoming season because it sounds exciting.
Oh yeah, we're getting super hyped for it. And I mean, not only are we paying these young athletes, we're also providing the Airbnb complimentary so they don't have to worry about paying for where they stay. For those that didn't bring a car or a personal vehicle, we have a car that we're renting so that we can make sure that they're getting to PGF match nights. Take them to the grocery store and take them to practices so that they'll have those basics covered. We're also planning team dinners. I think that'll be really exciting because we're trying to establish that sense of community and get some camaraderie going and, maybe some funny reels.
It sounds like a really great like setup. Just like I mentioned earlier about grappling, professional grappling on those levels, sky's the limit. And with this being your first season with the franchise, and getting everyone out there. It sounds like you've got a great attitude moving into it. And dude, it sounds like that'd be just a great franchise to be a part of because it's like with your, leadership and then, it just sounds like the athletes, all sound really cool. And just for the most part, most grapplers I've encountered are really cool. So it's like, this sounds like the perfect like storm for, just good stuff.
Oh yeah, the squad is ready. After the draft a couple weeks ago, the majority of us were in Vegas. Andrew, who was already on the team, he was at home in Philly, and Sean couldn't make it, but the rest of us were there. I took everybody out for tacos, and we were just getting hype, and you could tell that it was a good group that we have assembled, and we are ready for season 9. These athletes are training hard. They're keeping mind of their nutrition because they're going to have weigh-ins in the coming week. And I think they're going to do amazing. It's going to be truly a joy to watch them for the Phenoms debut season.
Yeah, I'm excited. Look, I've already got a favorite team. So,
Yes.
in when we were, again, kind of talking about the future of grappling sports, period, like with being a franchise owner now and being a part of this awesome league, like where do you see professional grappling in the next, let's say, 3 years?
Oh, definitely. I've certainly thought about this. I think with the way that the PGF is structured, it's kind of like in the early days of the NFL when people were just kind of hearing about it and talking about it. And you got a loyal, dedicated fan base that's only continuing to rise. And they'll notice, like, with that constant, nonstop action, the consistency of the seasons and how there's 5 players on each team, the consistency of the rules, and just truly bringing to the fans a premium experience. I think that it's going to help elevate pro grappling in ways it hasn't been seen before because the professional grappling league is doing things differently and some things that haven't been done before, like with the setup of the teams, the franchises, the 5 people on the team, and the rule set. I think there are some magic things brewing, and that's going to really captivate the audience. Aside from that, there are franchises, including my own, which are doing tournaments in our regions and, helping establish that local fan base as well. We held our very first event, which was a qualifier last month. And, everything could have gone wrong because it was in the middle of a blizzard. But so many people showed up. There were almost 30 people signed up for one bracket, and many of those guys showed up despite the weather. I was out there saying, the event's on, but only come if you can arrive safely. I remember saying that. But the amount of overwhelming support we received, it was like, this is something that's going to be here for a really long time. You could tell there's consistent interest. I get messages on social media all the time asking about the team or asking how they can be a part of something, and it's something really special. I think it's got room for exponential growth, truly.
It sounds like it, and like I said, I'm excited. This sounds really really cool, and just it's neat when you see something growing, and then would speak with someone like yourself, and you hear the passion and like the belief in it, because I think that's so important. It's like when you're part of something and you're really talking it up, because that energy carries over to someone like myself, because it's like, well, she's excited. I mean, I got to see what's going on here, because like I want to be excited too. So let's go check it out.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
so I did want to talk to you a little bit more about you as a grappler. Just kind of coming into it. I believe you're a blue belt.
I am, yes.
Awesome, awesome. And uh, in your travels so far on the mats as a blue belt, uh, like first off, how long have you had your blue belts?
I was belted last July, and then there were a lot of promotions, like super fight promotions, that required you to be a blue belt or higher to compete. And I remember I was applying for so much stuff. I was like, I have my blue belt now. I have so much freedom to do my first super fight. So, probably a few days after I got my blue belt, I got a match with Arena Grappling against a seasoned purple belt. And I was ready and terrified at the same time. It was like in a cage. That was my very first super fight experience.
Wow.
It was kind of like an endurance format, 3 5-minute rounds. And I was like, I remember looking around before it started and I was like, all right, what am I doing here? I did not win that match, but I tell you what, I made it through almost all 3 rounds, and I was proud of myself as a brand new blue belt. And would 10 out of 10 do it again? Because I believe that stepping out of your comfort zone and putting yourself out there is where a lot of growth occurs. We can be comfortable whenever we want, and that's fine. But my path is to push for more, to try and get better, to try and be better, to try and do better. And I've done many super fights, many of which have not been, in my favor. But like you were saying earlier, it's for the experience and those memories and those lessons I will carry with me for the rest of my jujitsu career. I'm still very much an active competitor. I've Another one of my challenges as a franchise owner has been balancing everything. With being busy, there also comes a need for balance. There's Lauren as an athlete, aka Thick Girl Jitsu. There's Lauren as the Philadelphia Phenoms owner. Um, and those are two entirely different things. And I prioritize myself as a business owner, a franchise owner, above my athletic endeavors. And I have learned over the past few months that, some of those athletic aspirations have to be put on the back burner a little bit. So I do think that I will be competing less, but I mean, the way I look at it is I'm still competing. I'm still healthy enough to compete. I'm still doing what I love. My job is amazing. I'm working hard to grow the franchise. So even with those big challenges with balancing everything, I have to believe in myself for it to work.
Oh yeah. You know what's funny is when we were talking about it earlier, I said I have questions here, and some of those questions get answered before I even ask. And one of the questions I was going to ask is, how do you balance being an athlete while also making executive decisions? And you beat me to it, Lauren. You beat me to it.
Um,
But that just hearing that though, just still shows kind of that character of you and understanding. Like, look, I love to compete. I'm going to have to take a step back a little bit to make sure my next endeavor gets off the ground. So it's good to have that recognition and understanding, because there's some folks that are like, I could still do multiple things at full clip and then end up you know breaking down. So having that understanding of your balance is really, really good. So I'm glad to hear that.
Definitely.
For you right now in training, because you say you're kind of a casual competitor, but I don't know, man. As soon as you got your blue belt, you're like, let me go find some super fights like days later. It doesn't sound very casual to me. That sounds very much like, look, I want it all. Give me the wins. Give me the learning, whatever it is out there, I want it. Um, but for you as a grappler right now, and just kind of, being very, I don't want to say very, but like relatively young in the sport, 3 years in, um, like, were there any like surprises along the way for you that like, hey, I didn't quite see that coming, or I didn't like, this isn't what I thought it would be like, or was it like that path along the way so far, like, I'm
Yeah.
right on schedule.
Absolutely. Just being a really ambitious grappler. For my very first super fight, which ended up being in a cage, I don't think like I thought much about that before the super fight. I just had in my mind, oh, we're going to be on some mats. And then like I kind of thought to myself, it would be really cool if I could somehow use the rule set and like go up against the steel cage and do something. So I kind of accomplished my goal, and I pushed my foot off of the steel cage and it made a cool sound. So, and then like another kind of venue for a match, I was in like a ring, and I thought I was cool stuff when I was competing in that ring. That was one of my gold medal wins. So I was really happy about that. I was like, this was last April at Controlled Combat. Oh, by the way, they've since invited me back for a super fight. So I'll be making that announcement probably in the coming weeks. I'm super excited about that. But yeah, I had no idea it was going to be in a ring. You know, you're on this platform and there's all these people gathered around, and I'm like, I'm not a wrestler or a boxer. And of course, I was terrified because I dealt with a lot of competition anxiety and still to this day deal with it to some degree. But I locked in somehow and I got the job done. You know, I have been beaten by people larger than me in my jujitsu career. I've been beaten by people smaller than me. I have beaten people larger than me and smaller than me. You never know who is going to sign up for your bracket, you know, how old they're going to be, what their skill set is. You know, like it could be, I compete in absolutes usually. So, speaking from my own experience, I could be facing a purple belt, I could be facing a white belt or someone in my own rank. So, mentally preparing for that is also a big job, and trying to kind of mitigate that anxiety. I think the more that I've competed, the better it's gotten, but I do get those nerves sometimes.
Oh yeah, they exist, and for a lot of folks, they don't go away. I always ask people, it's like about nerves before competing, and I'll have some folks say, "Yeah, I'm nervous, but you know, I just do it nervous." I'm like, "Oh, bless you," because like I did it nervous, and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that again." I thought I did until it came to. I was like, "I don't think I want to do this. This sucks." Like, it's uncomfortable, but you know, for folks who you know who can battle through that though, there's something really unique about it. There's something special because there is that desire to achieve, you know, to improve and to prove yourself. So you know, for those of us who are like, man, those nerves are a little bit more overpowering. I don't got to prove nothing to nobody because I convinced myself of that too. I'm like, I ain't got to prove nothing to nobody. Meanwhile, what that really is me saying, man, I'm super nervous. I'm a little scared, and I think I just peed. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over here and change my pants. But nah, you guys got it, and that's really awesome. So I'm glad to hear that. Um, I would like to talk a little bit away from the mat and away from the franchise and talk about Lauren just as a human, as a person. Because as we did mention, you know, horror movies, sci-fi, you know, stuff like that. So I would like to know, who are you away from grappling and owning a franchise?
I am a woman that has raised ferrets for many years. You know, some people are dog people, some people are cat people. I'm a ferret person through and through. I think they make the most wonderful, beautiful animals. I and they just have the cutest, like most distinct personalities that are different from each other. And I have other hobbies. I like going to minor league hockey games.
Oh,
I
nice.
try to do that when I can. I haven't had as much time for that lately. And there's nothing quite like watching a classic sci-fi show or sci-fi movie. That's like my unwinding, my comfort movie type thing. So those three things I very much enjoy off the mats. I like decorating a little bit, baking a little bit. Yeah.
What's your go-to sci-fi show?
I love Twilight Zone, hosted by Rod Serling.
Mhm.
There are so many gems of episodes. While I don't always know what the title of the episode is, I can describe it like, the one with the gremlin on the plane, the one with the genie where they get three wishes. I think that helped pave the way for sci-fi popularity, and that was a really important show. And then Rod Serling was just a fantastic host who of course went on to do Night Gallery. I thought Night Gallery was great in its own respect because it was stepping away from the sci-fi a little bit and more into that thriller
Yes.
zones, which I thought, wow, he did sci-fi well, he did thriller well. This guy is great. He was truly, I think, one of the best hosts of the last century. And I rewatch those episodes often.
Cool. Actually, for our horror theme for the season for this year, Twilight Zone is one of the shows that we're going to be covering. So might have to like collaborate on that and because I can hear just the way you're talking. I was like, oh, she's in it. She's in on this one. So
I'd be
that's
down for sure. I would
awesome.
be. That is my niche right there.
I remember growing up watching Twilight Zone a little bit as a kid. I remember Night Gallery because that was because it always creeped me out. Like it just always made me uncomfortable. Um, and then was like Tales from the Dark Side because the opening theme for that I'm hearing it now, and I'm in the basement in my home right now recording, and like it makes me uneasy just thinking about that, like the intro tune for Tales from the Dark Side. So,
Spooky
you
vampires.
know, like I think we looked it up on YouTube the other day. Well, I pulled up the theme because my wife, she was like, I don't know what it sounds like, and I played it for her. She's like, oh, I do remember this. I do know this. I was like, yeah, they're like, I'm not crazy. I'm not making these things up. Like, let's watch some episodes. She was like, no, we all right. We ain't got to do that. It's like, okay, just, just
My scary theme song that spooked me as a kid was Unsolved Mysteries. When I heard
oh yeah,
that, I either ran or turned the TV off.
oh yeah. I think that gets most people like like most people hear that song and they're like, yeah, I think first off, it's a bad time. I'm just gonna go ahead and hide under the covers, and then second, like, am I gonna be okay? Like, I'm not sure.
My husband had it as his ringtone, and I was
Oh,
like, no, just stop.
like that's not okay. No, it's like that's a triggering moment. Just at any random time, you're just sitting there, a phone call comes through, and you're like, okay, I need an adult. I am terrified right now. The TV series, like the sci-fi TV genre, is interesting over the years because there's a whole lot, but it's like there's so like the anthology series specifically, Twilight Zone, Night Gallery, things like that. Well, Night Gallery again, more leaning towards horror and thriller. Um, Twilight Zone was more sci-fi horror. Like, but like over the years, like the genre kind of lost sight of some things and started trying to lean either more into like sci-fi funny
Yeah.
or just and it just never feels right. So whenever you get something like X-Files was a big one, and
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't always consistently crazy about the X-Files, but now as I'm older, I'm like, maybe I should revisit because I always talk about music, how I'll buy a CD and I don't get it like the first year, like what's going on. I'm just listening to music. But then like 2 years into the CD's like ownership, I'm like, I get certain songs like, oh my God, I get what that song means now. And that's how I feel with TV shows now as an adult. As I see things, I'm like, oh, I understand now. I get things. So I think I'm going to revisit X Files, but I'm looking forward to the Twilight Zone episode because that's going to give me an opportunity to really sit down and take it all in as an adult because I haven't really consistently sat down and watched as an adult. I'll put an episode on and it's on in the background, but I'm not really like dialed in. So I'm looking forward to that. So
Oh yeah, I grew up watching the X Files on Sunday nights on Fox with my dad. And, there were a lot of things that I didn't get, but I actually revisited watching it a few years ago and I kind of developed a new sort of appreciation for it. So I think it's great you're rewatching it.
yeah, I'm thinking that yeah, if I rewatch it, probably this summer, because with doing this theme for the podcast, it's tough because like if you're doing a movie like a specific movie theme, like I think a couple years ago we did cursed films, so we watched all the films that were believed to have a curse behind it, and those were easier because it's like it's just a 2 hour film. But when you're watching a TV series, like sitting down for that's like oh, like I do a lot of stuff on the treadmill, so I'll get on the treadmill and I'll turn on a show because I have to focus. I can't get away from it. I can't get distracted because if I do, I'll fall. And if I fall, that's my wife and child will hear it. They'll come running down and then there'll just be jokes for months. And
Oh
I can't
no.
get it.
Oh.
It's like I start acting. I was like, do we need to get the treadmill again? Like, like that's your biggest foe. But like with doing a TV series, it does get a little trickier. We this first in January, our first one was The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. And going back and rewatching, which I already love the series, but then going back and rewatching it, I loved it so much more. And then starting like to break down certain things and like deep dive, and I was like, oh my god, this was pretty amazing. And then we just recorded "Are You Afraid of the Dark" from Nickelodeon back in the '90s.
Oh, I loved that. That was like one of my go-to watches. That and Goosebumps.
Yeah. So I put up a vote on Instagram, and weirdly enough, well, I did it kind of with the weird intention. I was like, I'm gonna put Goosebumps. Are You Afraid of the Dark? And there are two others I put in there. I was like, it's gonna be between Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps. And Are You Afraid of the Dark won, obviously, because we just did it. But Goosebumps was close behind, and I was kind of like, well, I might bump another show away just to put Goosebumps in there. And we're still early in the year. I might move something in September. Who knows? But those we all, when we were talking about it the other night while we're recording, we're like those are gateway horror shows for kids, because they're safe, but they still give kind of that feeling of that early understanding of being a scare, not being a scare, being afraid, but knowing that there's safety. And for Are You Afraid of Dark, in a lot of ways, they had episodes that kind of ended unfairly, where there wasn't necessarily a happy ending per se.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was pretty cool to do for kids because this was like preteens into early teens. So a good understanding at that point of horror. So just kind of going over those types of things with the TV shows is really really neat and really fun. And like I said, with Twilight Zone, I'm looking forward to that. And like I said, like we're gonna talk. Like I think I found my co-host for that one. But
Oh yeah, I'd love to do it. There are so many great episodes to kind of dive under the surface and see what was really going on.
oh,
There were so many great storylines, just great ideas with those episodes.
yeah, we when we did the cursed films episode, we actually talked about the Twilight Zone, the movie. Not so much that it was
Oh
cursed,
yes.
but because of the unfortunate tragedy that happened during the John Landis directed um, portion of it. And our conclusion after all the curse films, after we got done for the year, we're like, it wasn't so much that there was a curse as much as it was just poor decision making, well, The Omen. Hold The Omen. When we did that one, I'm almost positive that was cursed. If I'm sitting around with some friends and I have a couple glasses of wine or something, I'm convinced that movie was cursed. But the other ones, it was like, okay, that's not cursed. That's just, you know, poor decision making one way or the other, or bad luck in some others, which some could call that part of a curse. But
Oh yeah. I I remember seeing the original Omen many years ago, but I thought that the more modern one with Liev Schreiber, it was extremely well done, and it was one of those rare cases where I thought that the remake was just as good, if not better, than the original. Just one of those rare cases.
Like the I remember growing up watching the original Omen, and I love that one. It's funny because I never really cared too much about the second one, Damien. Well, as I got older, I appreciated it more because that's kind of the kicking off point now, because now he understands who he is. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, wait a minute. Like once he discovers, like, whoa, I've got powers. Like, hold on, let's tap into this. And then the third one, um, I enjoyed, but I also feel like, especially coming up as a kid watching, it was like it went a little over my head. It was like, okay, they're talking politics and stuff. Like, what's going on here? Like, oh,
Yeah.
and then when they did the fourth one, I want to say in '89, um, it was neat because it did tie back to Damien Thorne. It tied back to the originals where the little girl Delia is somehow the daughter of Damien. And well, not somehow. I mean, at the end of the third one, you find out this one lady's pregnant, and that ends up being Delia. She gets adopted in the fourth one. But like that whole series of movies, I think is a lot of fun. And I think beyond the point of doing the cursed film run of it, I think I am just going to do a full deep dive on that full franchise, because there's a lot to unpack. Like you mentioned, the remake, and then there's a prequel, and then they just had the first Omen as well
Yeah.
a couple years ago. So a lot of fun stuff to deal with there in the horror genre. So see, Eli was right. He said, "Hey, she likes horror and sci-fi. You
I
guys
love
might click
it.
on this."
Oh
So
man, it brings joy to me to discuss like the sci-fi genre, the horror genre, because like I started off as a teenager liking scary movies, just watching them on cable TV, and that's kind of what set the stage for me. I would get in the mood like around Halloween, and they would just have these marathons on, whether it be like I don't know AMC or something like that, where they'd have the Friday the 13th or all the Halloween
mhm.
movies, and I was like, oh man, this is so cool. There's like 10 of these movies.
I as you mentioned, I do remember a lot of times, because growing up on those two franchises, especially Friday the 13th and Halloween, I started thinking, it's like they never really did Nightmare on Elm Street marathons.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right. I don't remember a lot of that. I remember, yeah, Halloween, Friday the 13th. They had a handful of Child's Play movies back then.
yeah,
But yeah, the I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street movies were kind of all over the place.
yeah. Like I remember. I mean, obviously, whenever there's a Friday the 13th on the calendar, which we just had in February, we're gonna have another one in March, and we'll have another one next November. Uh, like anytime you get a Friday the 13th, they're playing those movies. In fact, this last Friday the 13th, my wife, she works evenings, and Friday evening through Friday and Saturday evening, she's off. So she's home. I'm like, all right, it's Friday the 13th. It's go time. She was like, really? Are we doing this now? I was like, yeah, I mean, it's Friday the 13th. What am I supposed to watch? Like,
Absolutely. Lock in, recognize those traditions because, it's fun. It brings you joy.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just like I can watch at least one through four easily over and over and over again without hesitation. The ones after four, like five was like a copycat killer. Six was like zombie Jason officially coming back from the grave. Seven was a telekinetic girl. Eight was in Manhattan, which I've watched once, and I was just like, I think I'm all right.
Oh,
Nine,
the cruise
Jason.
ship one. I remember
Yeah.
that.
I was like, this,
That was
like,
funny.
it it's one of those things where you watch and you're like, I'm gonna give it a run because it's part of the franchise, and it is a fun movie to watch in the sense of like, I mean, it's all silly, none of it's real, but it's like you watch, it's like something doesn't fit. It was like it's one thing that they had a telekinetic girl in the last movie. That's crazy, but I overlooked it. You know, I'm thinking about the X-Men, you know, and then you get to Jason Takes Manhattan. It's like, I feel like at some point he would have been gunned down. And like in all reality, they would have like, you know, just like fill this dude full of lead and
It's like
throw him back in
toss
the
him off
water.
the ship, just
Yeah.
toss him off the ship. What is he like an Olympic swimmer swimming relay laps to get back on the ship if you toss him off? I always
Yeah.
would think about things like that. Like, why don't they just gang up and get rid of him? But yeah,
Yeah.
like, but at the same time, it did have a scary element though. Like, you all are trapped on the cruise ship
Hmm.
for after your graduation with Jason. Okay. That's not, you don't have the advantage of being on the ground, being able to run a mile away, go hide somewhere.
You're
Who knows?
isolated.
Y'all are trapped on a cruise ship. That's interesting.
At least like when they're in the woods, like at camp, it's like you run long enough, you're gonna hit civilization. It's like on a ship, it's like, we can run some laps. Eventually he's gonna cut us off.
Right.
Then you had Jason Goes to Hell, which was one that I think I rented from the video store and never returned. So I was like, well, look, I'm gonna get charged that extra fee and I own the movie. I'm just gonna watch it all the time. And I I didn't realize that Jason X was a Friday the 13th movie until I randomly turned this movie on, and as it's running, I was like, huh, something seems weird about this movie. Kind of weirdly familiar. Oh,
Oh, that was so out there. Like,
oh
oh
yeah.
boy. It was very campy.
Yeah. But I mean, and then that's the thing about all this stuff is like, you know, it's fun. For some folks, they don't really like horror movies, and that's quite all right. You know, we all like our different things. Some people like rom-coms, some people like just straight up comedies, some like horror, some like drama. I can't really stand a cop show. So, you know, that's kind of my kryptonite. But if you tell me, hey, we're gonna log into Shutter and watch, you know, a home invasion movie, Hush, you know, or you know, The Strangers, I'm like, dude, sign me up.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
can we can we
Same.
watch it again?
Like, let me get my movie snacks. Let me get a little
Mhm.
bit of popcorn, a little bit of chocolate. Let me get something to drink and let's go.
Absolutely. See, oh man, let me calm down here. I was getting like we didn't switch from we didn't change podcast in the middle of one. So
A mishmash.
like people are probably like they turned off a long time ago. It's like, okay, this is where Dante's jumped the shark. Let's click this off now. Which I understand. Like all I need is you guys to listen for a minute. That's where it registers as a listen. Um, so Lauren, let's go ahead and wrap up here. I greatly appreciate you sharing your time and your story and your journey and really like getting us all excited here for the PGF season 9 because like I said, just hearing your enthusiasm and kind of talking about behind the scenes and bringing up a franchise really does make it sound like, hey, if she's excited about it, I got to see what it's all about now because it sounds like a good time. Before we wrap up, though, do you have any shout outs or mentions that you would like to leave our listeners with today?
Oh, absolutely. I just want to say that I'm really grateful to be on this podcast, Dante. I'm also grateful for my team. They're all making historical firsts for the debut season of the Philadelphia Phenoms. Shout out to Coach Chris, GM Steven, and all the athletes. And if you want to get an inside scoop on the Philly Phenoms, kind of see maybe some pictures and videos before it ever hits social media, go to www.patreon.com/Philly Phenoms. We regularly provide inside scoops and info and media on there. So it's a good one-stop place to get that.
Okay, awesome. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes for folks to link over and find. And also, I'll put your social medias in there as well for them.
Thank you so much. You can find me as an athlete at Thick Girl Jitsu, ThickGirljitsu. If you want to follow me as an athlete, you can follow at Philly Phenoms, our official franchise Instagram. Give us a follow.
Absolutely. I will put those in links as well, and I'll be following also. And as always, to you all the listeners, thank you. If y'all have any questions, concerns, or criticisms, please feel free to reach out. You can always find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram or Off the Mats Podcast as well on Instagram. I would like to give a big shout out to my crew over there in Nerd Rage Radio. I say the names all the time. If you guys make it this far, y'all probably know the names because there's so many. I actually probably forget some of them. The main core, though, is Bobby, Chris, Joe, and Farrell. So thank you to those guys over there. If it weren't for Nerd Rage Radio, I wouldn't be doing a podcast. So thanks, guys. I also want to shout out my other podcast, as you probably heard us already talking about it here a little bit. So you like horror? If you like scary movies, go check it out. Our theme this year is horror television. We've already wrapped up the Are You Afraid of Dark episode. I believe we are going to be talking about Scream 7 for the next one, since that's about to hit theaters. And I'm a big Scream fan. I've seen all but one in the theater, I believe. I didn't see number 4 in the theater, but I didn't see the original one in the theater either. My uncle had a bootleg copy of it. I didn't even know what it was. We sat in the basement. We watched that movie every single day for at least 4 months, 5 months until the tape broke. So
Amazing.
it's safe to say I'm a fan.
I love
Favorite
it.
final girl, Sydney Prescott, easily my favorite final girl, and then Laurie Strode after her. But those are my two final girls. But we'll be talking about Scream 7, giving a spoilerific review of it because I can't not spoil a movie. If you ask me not to, I won't spoil it. But if I'm going to sit there on the podcast and talk about it, you're getting all the spoilers. So before you listen to that one, go see the movie, unless you don't care about spoilers. And then last but not least, I would like to thank my guest here on the podcast, Miss Lauren Barone. Thank you so much for coming through and again sharing your story and just really telling us the ins and outs of running a franchise in the PGF. I think this is going to be really helpful to a lot of listeners as well to have an understanding and potentially anyone that might want to start up a franchise, especially on the East Coast, get a little rivalry over here, maybe in Baltimore. We don't know. We'll see. But otherwise, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. Y'all know what it is. You all keep listening, and we're going to definitely keep making these shows. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye. Ciao.
They were with it. Now let me sing a song.